Ever wonder what it really takes to be a rental manager? I mean, it's one of those careers you don't hear about every day, but let me tell you, it's about way more than just, collecting rent checks and chasing down late fees.
Right. There's a whole hidden world there.
Totally. So today we are diving deep, my friend, into the world of rental managers.
Love it. Deep dive.
And we've got some seriously cool resources from RoleCatcher to guide us. Their career guide is packed with insights. Plus, we'll be tapping into their interview tips and, get this, even taking a peek at how AI is shaking up the job hunting scene. Because why not, right?
The future is now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you mentioned rental managers, and it's funny how many people hear that and just picture, like, that apartment building manager, clipboard, grumpy look, the whole bit.
Oh, totally. But the RoleCatcher guide, it blew my mind how much variety there is in this field. Like, we're not just talking apartments here. We're talking anything that can be rented out.
Seriously, if it can be rented, there's probably a rental manager out there making it happen.
Okay, so get this construction equipment. We're talking bulldozers and cranes, the whole shebang.
Oh yeah, big stuff.
And then those bouncy houses that, let's be honest, make every party better. Rental manager territory.
Makes you wonder who rents out those giant inflatable obstacle courses, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know someone's got to be managing those.
Yeah.
And of course, you've got your more traditional apartments and vacation rentals, but even those can be surprisingly complex.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with the rise of those online rental platforms. It's a whole different ballgame now.
Speaking of technology, the RoleCatcher guide really digs into how online platforms are transforming this whole industry. Which, I mean, makes sense. Everything's online these days.
Right. Got to move with the times.
But, okay, before we get too far ahead of
You
ourselves.
got to keep it real, right?
Exactly. It's not all bouncy houses and vacation rentals. This job definitely has its, let's say, character building moments.
Yeah, the guide doesn't sugarcoat it. They're upfront about the fact that evening and weekend work kind of come with the territory.
Oh, yeah, you're dealing with people's stuff and people's needs, and sometimes those needs don't stick to a neat 9 to 5 schedule.
Exactly. And let's face it, dealing with customers, especially when they're stressed about something breaking or being late, it takes a certain kind of resilience.
Oh, tell me about it. Remember that time I tried to rent a karaoke machine? Don't even get me started.
Oh no, what happened? Another time, maybe?
Maybe another time. But point is, it's not always smooth sailing. But hey, the variety alone seems pretty appealing, right? For sure. Keeps things interesting.
Totally. But that brings us to the skills you actually need to, not just survive, but thrive in this role and get ready for some surprises because it's not just about, like, being super organized.
Right, although that does help. But the RoleCatcher guide, they emphasize some, shall we say, less expected abilities.
Ooh, like what?
Like, they highlight active listening, which I know it sounds kind of generic at first, right? Like, yeah, listen to the customer, got it.
Right, listening 101. Exactly. But think about it. Imagine a tenant calls, fuming, because their fridge just died and their ice cream is melting.
Oh, the horror.
Right. It's not enough to just hear them rant about the melted Ben and Jerry's. You have to really listen, understand their urgency, their emotions, and then, here's the key, respond with empathy while outlining a solution. That's where active listening becomes a total game changer in this role.
Wow, that's a really good point. It's about navigating those potentially tense situations with, like, a cool head and an empathetic ear.
Precisely. And then there's negotiation skills, another big one.
Oh, right, because you're not just, like, handing over keys and hoping for the best. You've got to be able to handle some back and forth.
For sure. Think about it. Resolving disputes between tenants, negotiating a better rate on a maintenance contract, these things come up all the time. And being a skilled negotiator can make or break your success.
So it's not enough to just know, like, the ins and outs of rental agreements and property maintenance. You've got to be able to handle people, think on your feet.
Yeah.
Basically be a master problem solver, right?
You got it. And those skills only become more crucial as you move up the career ladder.
Speaking of which, the RoleCatcher guide does this awesome job of breaking down the typical rental manager career path into 4 distinct stages, which I think is super helpful.
Totally. It gives you a roadmap.
Exactly. So they've got the rental agent, then you move up to assistant rental manager, then rental manager, and finally the big leagues, senior rental manager. And what I love is that they don't just, like, slap these titles on there. They give you a clear picture of what you'd actually be doing at each level so you can see how your role might evolve over time.
And how those all-important skills come into play at each stage.
Exactly. So let's start at the ground floor. The entry-level position, rental agent. What does that look like according to the guide?
All right, so as a rental agent, you're the first point of contact for customers, right?
Right.
You're explaining those rental options, processing payments, inspecting rental items. You're the face of the operation.
And remember, those rental items could be anything from a chainsaw to a party bus, depending on your niche.
Exactly. Variety is the spice of life, right? And to bring this entry-level role to life, the guide actually sketches out this hypothetical profile of a rental agent. They describe someone with like top-notch customer service skills, a real knack for explaining those sometimes confusing contract details clearly and
Oh,
concisely.
yeah, because who wants to wade through pages of legal jargon?
No one. And then, of course, attention to detail is a must. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to rent a bouncy castle with a hole in it, right?
So true. You've got to be on top of those things. And it's interesting, they also mention certifications and customer service and rental industry best practices. So even at the entry level, it seems like professional development is valued in this field.
Definitely. Shows you're serious about your career.
Okay, so let's say you've put in the time, you've honed your skills, you've proven yourself as a rental agent, and you're ready for that next step up to assistant rental manager. What changes at that level?
So as an assistant rental manager, you're moving into more of a supervisory role. You're helping to oversee those day-to-day operations, which means training and coaching those rental agents, keeping a close eye on inventory, and probably dealing with some of the more, let's say, interesting customer situations that pop up.
Oh, yeah, those customer escalations. That's where those active listening and negotiation skills we talked about really come into play, right?
100%. The guide's hypothetical assistant rental manager, they describe someone who excels at quickly and fairly resolving issues. They're cool under pressure, you know? And they highlight leadership qualities as being essential at this stage too, since you're starting to manage a team. Interestingly, this hypothetical assistant manager, they have a bachelor's degree in business administration.
So a business background isn't a hard requirement at this level, but it seems like a business-minded approach is definitely an asset as you climb the ranks.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You're moving beyond just the day-to-day tasks and starting to think about the bigger picture.
Okay, so let's imagine you've put in the work. You've mastered the art of diplomacy with even the most, shall we say, demanding customers, and you're ready for that next step, becoming a rental manager. What's different now?
All right, so now, as a rental manager, you are officially calling the shots. You're responsible for the entire rental operation.
Whoa, that's a big jump.
It is. You're managing staff, of course, but you're also developing sales and marketing strategies, analyzing financial data. It's a significant step up in terms of responsibility and strategic thinking.
I can imagine. So it's not just about like knowing which bouncy castle is in stock anymore. You need some serious business chops.
Absolutely. The hypothetical rental manager in the guide, they've got a proven track record of increasing revenue, likely through things like negotiating favorable deals with suppliers or figuring out how to get the most out of their advertising budget.
I'm betting those negotiation skills are absolutely crucial at this level.
You bet. And the guide also talks about the importance of maintaining company standards and creating a positive, productive work environment for your team, so those leadership skills are as vital as ever.
So you've really got to have your like internal management skills down as well as your external customer facing ones. It's a balancing act.
You could say that, but it's also about being passionate about the industry, Whether you're renting out construction equipment or audiovisual systems or, yes, even bouncy castles, you have to know your stuff and be genuinely interested in what you're doing.
That's so true. Passion is contagious. Okay, so you've conquered the rental manager level. Everything is running smoothly, like a well-maintained fleet of party buses. What's the pinnacle of this career path?
All right, so the top rung on the ladder, the big kahuna, is the senior rental manager. And at this level, you're not just overseeing one location anymore. You're thinking big picture, multiple locations, maybe even entire regions. We're talking about developing long-term growth strategies, building and maintaining relationships with those key clients and partners. This is where that MBA we mentioned earlier becomes much more common.
That makes sense. Their focus shifts from day-to-day operations to really shaping the future of the business.
Exactly. They've got to be visionaries in a way, anticipating trends and making sure their company stays ahead of the curve.
It's amazing how each stage seems to require a deeper understanding, not just of the like rental process itself, but of the business as a whole.
100%. It's about being a savvy business professional who also happens to be an expert in whatever it is you're renting out.
This has been incredibly eye-opening. But let's be real, even with the most exciting career path laid out, that interview process can be a little
Nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking is an understatement. I practically transform into a puddle of anxiety. Thankfully, RoleCatcher to the rescue again.
They've got your back.
They really do. They have a whole section on interview prep, which I am all about. And they don't just throw out a few generic questions. They've actually identified some of the tougher ones you're likely to face, which honestly is kind of scary, but also super
Oh,
helpful.
yeah, they don't pull back.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like they hit you with, how would you handle a constant stream of tenant complaints? Or what's your strategy for maximizing profitability? These are questions that require some serious thought, some real-world examples. You could just wing it.
No kidding. You've
Yeah.
got to come prepared. And that's where RoleCatcher's AI features come in, which is a whole other level of amazing.
Talk about a game changer for interview prep. I mean, AI to the rescue. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right? But it's real. And it's incredibly cool. It really is. They have this tool called RoleCatcher Copilot AI. And basically, it's like your own personal AI interview coach. It's wild.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. How does it actually work?
So it analyzes job descriptions, which, okay, that's helpful, but other tools do that.
Yeah.
But here's the really cool part. It analyzes your CV and gives you feedback on your interview answers.
Wait, hold on. You're saying you can, like, record yourself answering practice interview questions, and this AI will tell you how you're doing.
Yep. It's like having a superpower.
That's both amazing and slightly terrifying.
Right. I know.
Mm.
But think about it. It can tell you if you're like using too many filler words or if your delivery lacks confidence or even if your facial expressions are sending the wrong message. It's all about helping you put your best foot forward. Yeah, and honestly, who couldn't use a little help with that?
Seriously, I know I could, especially those facial expressions. I have a feeling mine can be a bit much sometimes.
Well, hey, that's the beauty of it, right? You get to practice and perfect your delivery in private with the help of this AI coach. It's like having a secret weapon for your job search.
It's like having a career counselor who can analyze your every word and expression, which, okay, a little intimidating, but also I can see how valuable that kind of feedback would be. It's one thing to practice in the mirror, but it's a whole other level to have AI analyze your every move.
And that's what I love about RoleCatcher's whole approach. You know, they've got everything in one place. They've got the job board, the networking tools, those detailed career guides like we've been talking about, and this incredible interview prep tool. It's like having a personal career assistant in your pocket.
Okay, I am sold. Where do I sign up?
Right. Makes you wonder how we ever survived job hunting without it. But speaking of the job itself, before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of rental managers, let's circle back to what it really takes to excel in this role. What's the biggest takeaway for our listeners, you think?
That's a good question. I think for me, what really stands out is that it's not just about logistics, right? It's not just about knowing where every piece of equipment is or how to process a security deposit. It's about being a problem solver. It's about being that person who can juggle those competing priorities, keep everyone happy, and still make sure the business is running smoothly.
100%. It's like you're constantly putting out fires, but also building something amazing at the same time.
Exactly. And you have to be able to think on your feet, especially when, like, a flock of pigeons invades your bouncy castle warehouse or, a heat wave hits and your entire inventory of industrial fans is already rented out.
Okay, now those are some visuals.
Right. But it happens. And in those moments, it's your ability to stay calm, come up with creative solutions, and keep those customers happy that really makes you a true rental manager superstar.
And hey, maybe with a little help from some AI coaching, we could all be rental industry rock stars. Who's up for the challenge?
Challenge accepted. But seriously, this whole conversation has me thinking, It's not every day we get to explore a career path that involves, like, equal parts logistics, customer service, and maybe a little bit of crisis management.
Right. It's a unique blend, for sure.
Totally. So before we wrap things up, let's bring it back to our listeners. What's the one big takeaway we want them to walk away with today?
I think it boils down to this. Being a successful rental manager, it's not about just being a process-oriented person. It's not just about ticking boxes and filling out forms. It's about being a problem solver at heart.
Okay, I like that. Problem solver. Because let's face it, in this role, problems are kind of your bread and butter.
Exactly. You're constantly juggling those competing priorities, keeping customers happy, managing your team effectively, and making sure the business is profitable.
Oh,
It takes a certain kind of mindset, You got to be able to stay cool under pressure, think on your feet, And never lose sight of the big picture.
And maybe have a healthy sense of humor too, right? Because with some of the scenarios we've talked about today, those pigeons in the bouncy castle warehouse, the great industrial fan shortage, you got to be able to laugh sometimes.
Absolutely. And sense of humor is key. But you hit the nail on the head. It's that ability to navigate those unexpected challenges, to come up with creative solutions on the fly. That's what sets a truly great rental manager apart.
It's like being part detective, part diplomat, part logistics wizard.
With a dash of party planner thrown in for good measure.
Exactly. So to everyone listening who might be considering this path, here's my challenge for you. Imagine the most chaotic rental scenario you can think of. Maybe it's a flash mob of clowns descending on your costume shop, or a sudden downpour flooding your entire inventory of patio furniture.
Okay, no, those are good ones.
Right, so the question is, how would you handle it? What would your game plan be? Because that ability to think on your feet, to stay calm amidst the chaos, to find solutions when it seems like all hope is lost, that's the true mark of a rental manager extraordinaire. Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And hey, with a little help from some AI coaching and a whole lot of hustle, maybe you could be the next rental industry legend. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Till next time.